Hey folks, this is Bailey from Dank, Wargaming.
Hey, this is Heath with Team Table Hawaii.
And joining us today from the Dark Angels Competitive 40K Facebook group is Alan once again. Welcome, Alan. Yay, Alan.
Hello.
It's been like a year, I think, since we had you on, but I don't know. You've been keeping it real over there, so
we got a lot of presence.
Yeah, we got a lot of new stuff to talk about, right? They just dropped Pariah Nexus, and everything's different. So let's see what we got.
Yeah. And we welcome you all three of us welcome you to the Path to Redemption, the Warhammer 40,000 Dark Angels podcast, where our aim is to provide Dark Angels players with the tactical and hobby skills that they need in order to enjoy this wonderful hobby of ours. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the new competitive season of 40K in our new releases segment, plus something else that's on the way that seems really, really cool. We're going to mention in MetaWatch that there were some top 10 finishes, but we're going to move on because you'll know why when we get to our main featured segment where we talk about the brand new season and the new Balance data slate, not the beta slate.
Balance beta slate, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's when you know when your lists go from being alpha list to beta list when the beta slate hits. And then
oh boy.
And then Heath and I compare our hobby challenges from last month. And then before wrapping up with our community comments, which will be interesting because all of our community comments from last month were Alan. So
we'll just do it live.
Here.
Yeah.
All right. So new release, chapter approved, Pariah Nexus mission deck, $35. So we got those new cards. There's like 69 of them or something like that. There's 60 plus. There's some tactical card or objectives or the like little tokens, 40 mil tokens in there I read. So that's all available. The one thing that is coming out, it's from this company called Tommy. It's the people that do all the Games Workshop merchandise plushies. Did you guys see that there is a Watcher in the Dark plushie holding the Lion's helmet that's coming out?
Also, yeah. I do want to provide a small shout out. So recently on the Reddit Darking, I don't know if it was on r/Dark Angels 40K, but someone posted a handcrafted, like a crocheted Watcher in the Dark.
Oh, wow.
And I ordered one.
Oh,
and
nice.
It looks like this. It's so adorable.
Yes!
Look at that. Look at that. Look at that.
Yes!
It's so cute. It's about, I don't know, like Pariah Nexus box for scale. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about as big as I thought it was.
This person is over in your neck of the woods, Alan. It says Derby, England. It's a Crafty Panda Crochets.
Derby.
Oh,
okay.
Derby.
As the original speakers of English, I will yield to your expertise in the matter. But anyway, yeah, it was. It's great, awesome, super cute, and they come in green robes as well, I think. So
nice.
Go over and check out Crafty Panda Crochets on Etsy. Or look around in Reddit. I'm sure you can find one. So,
now, given that the rules just say, you use a Watcher as a token and it has no in-game effect. I mean, you could just stick that on the tabletop next to your unit.
Or this is my teleport homer.
Yeah.
This is my teleport homer because I usually do use a Watcher as a teleport homer. So, anyway, just wanted to shout that out.
That's cool. Awesome. So just a quick couple shout outs because all this has changed. We're going to the MetaWatch. So we had the Dice Hammer Open GT, 43 players, 5 rounds. Steven Corrales with a 7th place finish there with Iron Storm Spearhead, which we'll now move on because that was a thing.
Yep.
Then we have.
Didn't you say this guy was on the top table playing for the win, lost, and fell to 7? The next guy.
Yeah.
Next guy. All right.
So this next one's actually pretty interesting. I thought this was cool. So at the Branson Brawl, which is 59 players, 5 rounds out of Branson, Missouri, this guy Kyle Lemperez, something like that, running Ironstorm. He was playing top table against Tau, lost, and then unfortunately fell to 7th place. But then right behind him. He went to 8th place, sorry. But then he went in 9th place was Jason Brown, also playing Dark Angels, Iron Storm, and then in 10th place was Lee Proust, playing Devil Redemptor Executioner, Iron Storm, Dark Angels. So there were 3 Dark Angels players rounding out the top 10, one right after the other in this 59-person tournament. So I just thought that was kind of neat that it worked out.
You wonder why they nerfed Ironstorm. I don't know. Because it's the only thing anybody was doing, I guess. So,
but the guy,
yeah,
but the guy
not that
that
it was. Yeah.
So I was gonna say the guy that got 7th though, there were no Repulsor Executioners and no Storm Ravens in his list. He ran 2 Vindicators, a Land Raider Redeemer, and 3 of the Ballistus Dreadnoughts and 2 Lancers. So I thought it was interesting that he didn't run any of the big stuff that we've been looking at or talking about and did so well. So congratulations on those finishes, guys.
Vindicators are good,
sorry,
though.
you're gonna have to get new lists.
Yeah, I think Vindicators have been slept on a while. They are actually quite good.
Though, I love me some Vindicators. They are the D6 plus 3 shots. Really?
Blast, and you can use it in melee with no modifiers.
Charge me. I don't care. That's fine. Yeah. Like, I encourage you to do so. Yeah. And I realized on Wednesday that Land Raider Redeemers, those Flamestorm cannons are D6 plus 3 each. I didn't realize they were plus 3.
And they've got up a lot of points.
But they've gone up a lot, which is they needed to. They were so good. Anyway, cool.
All right. Speaking of that, we're going to our featured. Yes, congratulations, you guys. So we got some lists. I was happy that somebody did something somewhere, so we didn't have an. Because I was like, oh no, our first 2 segments are going to be empty and no new releases, no table results. But nope, we had a couple. So thank you guys for going out and showing your love for the Lion. So moving into the featured segment, our Balance Dataslate. The first thing I had up in the notes is the points changes specifically for Dark Angels, which I feel like we can start here and then it's going to go everywhere because like when you look at the first big change that you notice is Deathwing Knights went up to 235, and when you see that at first you're like me who didn't look at the other stuff and went, why would you raise points on those guys? They're trash. No one's been playing them. And it's not until you look at what they did to them that you're like...
The first thing I did when I saw those points changes was, oh, good, this means they did something to make them worth more. Maybe I'm just an optimist.
Okay.
Yeah. I had the opposite. So I found the data slate first. So for me, I'm like, yes, they've made the Knights good again. And then I saw the points and went, okay, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
That's funny how all 3 of us had a different experience. That's funny. All right, so they went up,
and then of course you've got the Dark Shroud, which went up from 115 to 115.
But it's marked in red, just to see if you're paying attention. The Inquisitor, the Interrogator chaplains are putting that in to make sure that you're doing your due diligence.
I do wonder whether it's red because they intended to change it and maybe made a last minute decision not to. I don't know.
Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah, maybe they looked at it and then they had planned on doing it to help nerf Ironstorm, and then said, no, we're doing that with the other stuff, so maybe we don't.
Yeah,
which is honestly, the Dark Shroud wasn't a problem really in anything but Ironstorm.
Yeah, agreed. Yep. And the big one was the lack of red on Azzy, which I think probably we were all expecting.
Which once again, I look, I'm happy with it. I'll take it. But, once again, Azrael still can't join a Company Heroes.
And I'm okay with that, because Company Heroes are great if you want to keep Azrael alive. If you just want to sit him somewhere, farm your CP, then the Company Heroes are by far and away the best way of keeping Azrael alive. For the points, 100%. Mm-hmm. But as a unit, they're a bit all over the place, bit of shooting, bit of melee, bit of, they're not particularly good at doing any one thing other than keeping Azrael alive.
Yeah.
If you want to use Azrael offensively, you want to put him with Hellblasters. Maybe you want to put him with Inner Circle Companions. Now, spoiler, they've been buffed. I think the only time really that I wanted to use him with Company Heroes was where I just Company Heroes where I just wanted to keep him safe. So, for example, in an Iron Storm list, where maybe I wanted him to hold my home objective while everything else pushed forward and
make a little action monkey unit that does that generates CP and is durable enough to maybe take a deep strike charge, or is a little harder for the guard indirect fire batteries to interact with. But
Oh, speaking of that did you guys, just a quick aside, did you guys see how what they did to indirect fire, what they did to the whirlwinds and everything else? Oh my goodness, they were
they did to the
no.
the repulsors, ballistic skill 2 hunter slayer missiles. No, sir. Can it ever hit on anything but 4s? Yeah.
The thing is, I'm not being funny, but I played against guard quite a lot, and when guard is shooting you and can't see you and hitting you on 2s, and your highly trained space marines who can see the target are hitting on 3s, there's something wrong.
I can see that.
But my brother raises a good point. My brother plays Death Guard, and there are quite a lot of Death Guard interactions with the plate burst crawlers where you can increase their chance of hitting and blah blah. Those interactions now are gone, and so there's units there whose abilities now do nothing.
Do nothing. Yeah, it's. I agree. Like, they've basically invalidated a lot of data sheet rule abilities. I mean, Mortarion still lets you reroll everything, right? Or ignore so
ignore modifiers.
Or ignore modifiers.
But that's not a modifier. It's a modified dice roll. So if your dice shows a 1, a 2, or a 3, you've missed. Doesn't matter what else you've got. Doesn't matter what rules you've got. It's a miss. I don't know if I'm happy with it because I think indirect was bad for the game in terms of how good it was. But I do feel sorry for people who have units that now don't do anything because of the change. It's a bit of a feel bad.
Yep.
They could have messed with those units maybe and made them do something else. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. It seems like a sweeping core rule change to fix a somewhat specific problem. But yeah. So
I mean, they could just legends it like they did to the Thunder Fire Cannon and score 1 Scorpius.
Well, I don't know. Like, they're not going to legends their Earthshaker cannons, right? Like they don't have they're still a core part of their tech. Yeah. But like, don't like the army as a baseline hits on 4s. You're supposed to be -1 to hit and indirect fire. Don't allow rule interactions that let your indirect fire weapons hit on 2s. That's easy enough to control. So
with rerolls, with auto wounding on 6s, that's now gone. I'm not a guard player, but I do recall reading now. I think the rule now is you can't lethal on a 6 indirectly. I believe in the guard.
I wasn't aware of that. Huh.
So I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I did read that amongst the million rules changes that have happened.
Yeah,
in the last
there were
few
a lot. There's a lot.
So I think that this is like the intent was they want indirect fire weapons to be a thing, but you're going to have one of them. And with the change to the overall way that armies are constructed, which is character, battle line, and everything else, they really don't have like the whole like you can take 0 to 1 of these things doesn't seem to be a thing they're willing to do anymore. So I don't know. Maybe that's also another way you can approach it, but.
Big points increases on that basilisk.
Yeah,
who knows?
Yeah. But then they're just going to go to what are the Elder Rocket pods?
The Death Strikes.
Yeah,
Death Strikes
or
Manticores.
Manticores. That's what I was thinking. I was trying to think. Yeah, Medusa. No. All right. So other points.
Speaking of points changes, the Valiant went up. The Gladiator Reaper went up to 160. So they're all in line with the Lancer. So
I don't know why the Valiant went up. The Valiant sucks. I don't know. It's compared to the Reaper and the Lancer, it is definitely of less utility.
It's good in Black Templars, but that's got its own points cost anyway, because you want to get close and you've got the extra melter or the extra multi-melter. Speaking of which,
3 melters on it.
Yeah, speaking of which, one thing I hadn't spotted hidden away in the Space Marine errata is they've now fixed the other divergent chapters. I don't know if you've seen that. Black Templars now can't take Librarians, but they now can't take 6 of one vehicle, because if they're taking a Lancer, they can't then take... They have to take the Black Templar Lancer, they can't take the normal Lancer.
Oh, okay.
Space Wolves now don't get Apothecaries at all, no matter what detachment they're in.
They have to take the Wolf Priests?
No,
it's a Wolf Priest or a Rune Priest? Wolf Priest is their equivalent of an
Wolf Priest, the Wolf Priest is the apothecary thing, because Rune Priest are the wizards.
I can't remember anymore. It used to be Rune Priest and Wolf Priest and all that, but they've got rid of so
I'm going
much
off
stuff.
of lore names, not any specific knowledge of how wolves work in 10th edition.
Big changes across other factions as well, which again they've kind of buried in random places. Unless you're looking or someone's pointed it out to you, you're not going to notice them.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
So, as we alluded to, the Land Raider Redeemer went up from 260 to 285, which I think is fair because that thing is spicy. 2d6 plus 6, strength 6, AP 2, damage 2, torrent, ignore cover hits, and a multi-melta and an assault cannon. And it moves, a lot of people don't realize this, but the variant Land Raiders move 12 inches instead of 10 like the standard Godhammer Pander Land Raider. And the damn thing has grenades because it has assault launchers on the front.
That's funny.
I think it has more capacity.
It's got the Redeemer has 14. The Redeemer has 14, which is why everyone was using at the beginning of the edition, so they could get their 6 aggressors and the Apothecary Biologus. So it can carry 14, which means or a unit of 5 Terminators and 2 characters. Right, you can attach a captain and an ancient, which is the thing I was looking at doing. But
I think this is going to be a segue episode because that segues nicely into the impulsor change for 6 to 7, which is fantastic.
Yep.
Now
and
we should get your Blade Guard and a character, and that's up to 14, I think.
Repulsor
now, isn't it?
from 12 to 14, so you can do all the same things with Repulsor that you could with the Redeemer. And once again, segue again. Maybe we'll tie all this together, but the Repulsor went from 190 down to 180. Which is good. So, you can put your unit of 6 Eradicators with the Biologus in there for lethal hits. There's a lot of interesting tactical changes, but let's pivot back to the Impulsor discussion because I think that's probably the most relevant to what Dark Angels want to hear about. Alan, what do you think?
Well, this is going to be another slight segue with the Impulsor, but I think the main thing, yes, it's great. It's great you can now put 6 in a character in, whether that's Inner Circle Companions, which incidentally, Josh Roberts on the Meta Watch was calling Inner Circle Champions, I think, every time he mentioned them, about 5 or 6 times. Go and watch it. Interesting episode, but he got that wrong every time. Or 6 Blade Guard in the character. Now, are you going to put Judicia, Lieutenant, Ezekiel, Asmodai? There's loads of options, I think, with either Blade Guard or Inner Circle Companions.
Once we get finished hitting all the various little changes, I think we'll go back and talk about, okay, now what do we think the best way to do some of these things is? And I have some opinions about the companions, but
me too.
Yeah.
But here's a nice trick for you, and this is a slight segue, which is the new pivot rules. So the new pivot rules say, now instead of none of this, part of my tank can't move more than a certain distance, and you had that thing where you had to move 2 inches to pivot it and then measure how far the back had gone round, and you'd spend a good couple of minutes.
Trigonometry, right?
Exactly. So now it's just move it effectively where you want, and if you're going to turn it at any point, knock off 2 inches. I mean, it's a bit more complicated than that, but that's it in a nutshell. Unless you want a round base. Okay? So the Prior Nexus Companion expands it out because in the main version of the rules, it's only monsters and vehicles. In Prior Nexus, in the companion pack, it includes anything that's not on a round base. So that includes, and we could probably come back to this later, bikes. Okay? Bikes have to pivot in Prior Nexus, 2 inches. But here's the thing, anything on a round base doesn't have to pay the pivot tax. So you want to get your blade, maybe not your Blade Guard, maybe your Eradicators. You want to get them into a good position to get a shot. You can now put your Impulsor sidewards on your line, move the full movement, pivot for free, and now your front end is, I don't know how many, 1 inch, 2 inches further forward. You get your Eradicators at 3 inches. Now, potentially, that's got you past some cover, so now they've got line of sight into somewhere.
Well, Eradicators can't go into Impulsors. Gravis Armor stuff can't go into Impulsors.
Okay. But, you can tell I don't use Impulsors.
Yeah. But one of the things I think is good is you can put 5 Hellblasters or 5. I've actually been thinking about this. the Ghost of the Desolation Squad may be an interesting thing to be in an impulsor, because all the guns are now just mounted on top. So yeah, if you can move and pivot and get them around the corner, to draw a line of sight. But
it could also be used for charging. I mean, if you wanted to, for some reason,
that's the big consequence.
Get your impulsor into combat, then that extra pivot is going to make your charge a lot easier. Maybe to tie something up, maybe to get onto an objective. Whatever. As you can tell, I don't play impulsors, which is which is why I hadn't realised that graphics can't go in them. But what I'm saying is there are all sorts of implications, but not just for us, for everybody else as well. With these new pivot rules, one of the things that's being talked about is monoliths. They've got a round base. You deep strike 9 inches away. You roll an 8. Does that mean? And there is a debate about this. Does that mean you can move 8 inches, pivot for free? Now your corners are an inch closer. You're now within engagement range of your target.
Pardon me if you already said this, but I think in the Pariah Tournament Companion, it said that everything had a pivot cost. So there is no pivot for free.
Unless it's on a round base.
Unless it's on a round base. Okay.
Everything.
Yeah, because Dark Eldar Raiders are on those
Dark Angel Raiders.
Raiders, and they're little stupid, canoes, right? Like paper airplane canoes.
And the debate at the moment is, can they deep strike and effectively get a 7-inch charge because they move 7 inches, pivot for free?
Yeah, and then they drop and then turn, and that basically moves 3 inches out, and they've got that little prow on the front, which is part of the model. Yeah, it's. This sounds like one of those things that maybe we need a 2-week FAQ, because this is effectively. I don't think I'm wrong in saying that this is basically almost an edition change.
I think a lot of people have been calling this 10.5, and I agree. I mean, if you look at the data slate now, and the difference between this data slate and every other data slate, this data slate, I think, is it.
It's 33 pages or something crazy.
Yeah, the core rules update is 33 pages now. The data slate is 7 pages. I mean, this is a much bigger.
Yeah. And then
all the indexes and
the designer commentary, which also has big changes in it.
Massive. And you've got the Prior Nexus changes, which, as we alluded to earlier, now we've got these cards. 5 of these cards have changed already. I don't know if you've spotted that, but 5 of these cards have changed already.
I had not.
Of which 1, 2, 3 are secondaries. So actually, that's 6, 7, 8 of these cards have changed. Because obviously,
wait, hold on. Do you mean like
attacker.
Change compared to the way the similar rule was in Leviathan?
No.
Like they have changed since release.
Since release. Okay. So what you've got written on some of these cards is wrong.
Okay.
So the first thing I did when I opened this pack is get a pen and actually physically amend some of the cards, because if you go to the Prior Nexus Companion, some of these cards have been errata day one.
Sounds like, yeah. This is one of those, like, hey, we don't want you to have to buy all these books, and that's why I buy one away from 9th edition. I don't know. Like, maybe this sounds bad, but GW needs to, just like they basically purchased BCP, they kind of maybe should purchase the tabletop gaming app from Goonhammer.
Well,
and just incorporate that into their app, because that way, you don't have that feel bads of buying a $35 product that is invalidated, -1 days after release.
So there's a nice controversy for you. So Goonhammer nicely updated their app day one. Absolutely brilliant. I downloaded it day one, looked at it, set up a test game just to mess about with some settings, and went, oh, there's a little information button next to my secondary. And when you press that information button, the secondary card comes up with all its text in full.
So that's an IP concern, yeah.
Then I went to show it to a friend, and the I button had vanished. And after a bit of research, Goonhammer said, we've removed that feature for reasons that you can probably guess.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. The Inquisition was released. So.
Yeah. So, but I think the thing is, if Games Workshop did that, no one would. Well, very few people would buy the cards. I like the cards because I like to have the secondaries in front of me, because I don't know about you, but I can get hyper focused, and I think this unit's going to kill that unit. That unit's going to get that objective. This is going to screen over here. And sometimes you forget, oh, hang on a minute, I'm supposed to have a unit in the middle of the board. I'm supposed to be engaging all fronts. And having the cards physically in front of you can pull you back in sometimes and make you think, oh, actually, hang on a minute. Maybe I shouldn't make that move because, great, I get to kill that unit, but I don't then get to score these points.
It's back to a very fundamental problem, which is how do you provide a modern digital level of support to what is fundamentally an analog game? And yeah, I don't know. We're not going to solve that problem right here, but
no, we're very good Dark Angels, and it's probably my fault. So
maybe it's a good. So there is they have supply chain issues with the Pariah Nexus cards. My store here in Honolulu ordered 40 of them, got 13, and sold all 13 in pre-order. So when I showed up, at 10 o'clock in the morning on the nose when they flipped the sign to open, I got mine. And, the other 12 people that were there got theirs, I'm sure. My brother-in-law, who lives in just north of Dallas, Texas, where the GW North America HQ is, went to the Citadel in Grapevine and on Saturday morning, and they were out.
Yep. I can believe it.
So, yeah. It's like, guys, come on. Do better. Hey, all right. So, back to impulsors.
Yeah.
Now you can put 7 in them.
So put 7 in them, and let's assume this pivot rule is going to be fact quite quickly. I hope it will be because it's a big area of controversy, and there's lots of arguments about whether it works or not. But I just think I've seen people take 5 Blade Guard in a character because they value the benefit. There you go, the benefit of the Impulsor that much. So I think it's going to be huge for people to use the Impulsor.
5 Blade Guard and a character and 3 Eradicators into a Repulsor, so I could have either one get out. But yeah, I think the 6, because they do seem to be really focusing on 6 as a number for things. Which also I didn't realize that the point where you shift from single model coherency to the double model coherency is 7 now. Where in 9th edition it was 5.
5.
So you can have 6 in a character and not trigger the double coherency standard. So
no, 6 in a character, and you do.
And you do, okay.
But 6 without a character, and you don't.
Okay. So you just want to talk about Inner Circle Companions, because I think that's kind of what a lot of this discussion is going to pivot around.
And I think that's where the most debate has been at the moment, focusing on Dark Angels, which is everyone looks at them now and thinks, yes, they're now good because they're now AP2, which has been absolutely fantastic.
So the Inner Circle Companions, big changes. So their weapons were changed, just the greatsword profiles. Previously, they didn't know how to turn on the power feature of their weapons. So the strike and the sweep profiles were AP1. Strike was 4 attack, strength 6, AP1 damage 2 with lethal hits. And then the sweep was sustained hits 2, 4 attacks, strength 6, AP1, 1 damage with sustained 2. Now, they're both AP2, and the sweep profile went from 4 attacks to 5 attacks. So you are either 4 attacks with lethal hits and 2 damage on strike, or 5 attacks with 1 damage and sustained hits 2 on sweep. Which is pretty spicy. So a unit of 6 of these guys is going to have 30 attacks with sustained hits 2 with strength 6. Bro, rough.
Yeah. Okay. Or you're going into something bigger and you're going for 24 attacks.
Yeah,
with lethal hits.
Yeah.
And then this is where the choice is: do you put them with Azrael to get the inborn and the sustained and lethal on the strike? Or do you use a Judicia so you get them out of the Impulsor, and then just, if there's not a lot of shooting, you get them out of the Impulsor and sit there and go, come at me, bro. Because the thing with Inner Circle Companions is they're OC2.
Oh.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah,
a lot of people
don't know that. Now, if you look at the models, there's 6 different ways of building those 3 models, and one of them has a flag, as a banner.
Yeah, he has the icon.
Okay.
Yeah, and so, a lot of units that have the banner, if you kill the banner, like your ancient, you lose your, that's the thing that gives you your OC, right? Yeah. But it isn't. It's just a modelling thing. It doesn't mean anything. It's not an in-game effect.
Yeah. Okay, interesting.
But for me, the reason I modelled it, A, I wanted 6 unique sculpts, but B, it reminds me, because
that
they've
they're
got this banner
OC2.
thing,
Nice.
OC2.
I need to go buy their box, these guys. I've only got one. I wanted to see when I first came out. I was like, well, they're not good enough to have a full unit of 6, but I want the models. Now I want to have 6.
So. See, I bought 2 boxes because I like the models, and I wanted to make 6 unique sculpts, and I knew they were lackluster. But the thing you'll find with 40k is something can be lackluster today, great in 6 months' time, and vice versa. So my advice to anyone getting into even competitive 40k is buy what you like, buy what looks cool, and then make an army based on that. Buy extra stuff in that is good, but actually some of your less good models will probably cycle in at some point and become good.
So if you're just chasing meta, you're gonna end up like me with just a pile of shame. But if you just do the thing that it's everything in due time, and understand that's we're talking about a cycle of years, and that's a big commitment. But I don't know. I've been playing this game for 27 years, so. But
foreshadow the Deathwing Knights, where everyone had Deathwing Knights forever, and then they changed them all, and everyone got mad. And
they were they sucked for 6 months, and now they're cool again. Yeah, 3 months later. Oh, it has only been 3 months.
Yeah, but like I've got 15 Deathwing Knights, or had 15 Deathwing Knights. But when the Deathwing Assault box came out, I still made those extra 5 and gave them swords, because I'm like, meh. At some point, who knows? Having 5 with swords might be good.
Okay.
Exactly.
So you guys just want to move on and finish talking about the changes to the data sheets, and then come back and talk about what we think the best tactics are? Because we could go either way here. Okay. So let's come back and talk about the inner circle companions again.
We got to be mindful of Alan's time, because it's like pushing
it is
10, 11 o'clock.
I'm okay. Don't worry.
All right. So I think the other thing we need to talk about here, the elephant in the room, is the return of the Deathwing Knights. Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years. So the Deathwing Knights, right? Said, "Oh wait, we're knights. We're here to kill monsters and big gribblies."
I mean, you talk about the fact that the Inner Circle companion forgot to turn the power swords on, right? Yeah. Now you imagine.
Oh wait,
like you're a Dark Angel. You make it through all the ranks, okay, and you make it to become a Deathwing Terminator, and they give you this power fist, and it's great, it smashes stuff, and then you finally become the elite of the elite and become a Deathwing Knight, and they give you
next in line to be a captain,
and this thing hits worse than your power fist, and it hits worse than a Blade Guard sword, and you're like, can I have the power fist or the sword that guy's got? Why are you giving me this mace?
This is your sacred duty. This is your sacred weapon. Oh, okay. There you go. Oh wait, we forgot to put this step into the ritual of activation. Now, So anyway, the Maces of Absolution are now AP2. They're still only damage 2, which, okay, but now they're anti-monster and anti-vehicle 4+, which is huge. That is important, right? And also the power weapons. Again, they went and they talked to their Primaris brethren and figured out, oh wait, so now they're basically master crafted weapons. They're damage 2 power swords, so you can have a 5 attack, strength 6, AP2, 2 damage sword, or 4 attack, strength 6, AP2, 2 damage mace that will auto wound vehicles and monsters on 4+. Amazing. Amazing. So, anyway, now, case in point, the anti-monster, anti-vehicle, that is not a data sheet rule that applies to the unit. That is a characteristic of the Mace of Absolution, the weapon. So, I was thinking my Terminator Ancient with a Thunderhammer now just got spicy. Nope, doesn't apply to him, right? It's not like it goes to attach character like the Ravenwing Knights do. But now my Deathwing Knights are, once again, I personally think that is worth 20 points for 5. Does it make them a bargain basement like auto include? No, but it makes them quite viable in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I was always happy with -1 3 damage. -1 was pathetic, but the thing with it was
3 damage.
weight of attacks,
smarts.
and
Yeah,
it smarts. And with 3 damage, half damage and -1 damage is still 2 damage.
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas 2 damage will become 1 -1 or half. So for me, -2/2, -1/3, both are good. Have got different uses. So I'm happy. -2/2 is certainly better than -1/2 that we had before, or -2/1. So that's great. And you've got a real choice.
Yeah.
You
the
know,
biggest problem
choice.
was I didn't really think that Deathwing Knights were viable in anything other than Gladius because you needed the extra point of AP from Honor the Chapter. Because -1 just gets Armor of Contempted away. Right, and without the 3 damage, so that every time it gets through, it kills a Terminator, or it does kill a Custodian. It's just pointless. But now, hey, it's base 2, right? And then they have a very clear role as to go and punch big things.
Yeah, and there's a real good choice, because how do you want to use your knights? Do you want to use them for clearing most stuff, elite infantry, chaff, blah blah blah? Fine, give them swords, get an extra attack.
Mm-hmm.
Or do you think they're going to go into toughness 12 vehicles? And importantly, do you think they're going to be on vowed objectives if you're playing in the Circle Task Force, or off vowed objectives? Because if you think they're going to be on vowed objectives and not hitting toughness 12 stuff, then the swords are the way to go. Now, me, I like options, so I like the fact that if I'm not on my vowed objective and I am hitting a high toughness vehicle, I want that anti-vehicle for. So I'm going Maces all in, but I can see both arguments.
I could see an argument for both. I could see an argument for one of each, to be honest. And with that with the AP2 and the anti-roll, I don't think you need chaplains for them. You don't need to bring a captain to get the free, the reduced cost, the discount stratagem anymore. So they, the required character support to make them viable changes. Now, I think you can definitely put them with an ancient, right? Because that'll give them the OC buff instead of the required, damage output buff that you would get from a captain. So, no, I'm back high on Deathwing Knights, baby. Right there.
I think there's loads of options, and there's a couple of rules interactions that come into this. Firstly, captains now can't copy an ability that's been used already.
Very important. Yeah.
So you can't AOC a different unit and then use the captain to AOC your unit. However,
honor the chapter on your intercessors and then honor the chapter on your Deathwing Knights.
However, the battle tactic restriction is gone.
Yes.
So you can use your funky stratagems in your detachment for less. I say less because it's not free anymore. It's -1. So your 2 point stratagems are now only 1 point rather than being free. So there's all sorts of different things that are going to interfere with the choices that you're now going to make over whether or not a captain's worthwhile.
I think this is one of the things that is also honestly not even subtly, it's a big change. It's one of the big things that is probably going to provide the most equalization between the obvious power level of the various detachments. Is that, in my opinion, one of the things that made the 3 top Space Marine detachments, which was Gladius, Firestorm, and Ironstorm, so good, was that they all had very useful battle tactics. Whereas the detachments that really didn't have battle tactics, like they're all strategic ploys or this, you didn't get the action economy right out of your CPs, and so that was less good. But now
there's another rules interaction though that actually makes Chaplain you might want to think about, which is the change to Dev Wounds.
Oh yeah.
So Dev Wounds and Hazardous. So Hazardous now doesn't auto kill a model. Hazardous now just does 3 mortal wounds, but
that doesn't spill over.
So that's the important thing, that Dev Wounds and Hazardous now don't spill over. So when you're being hit by big blocks of Dev Wounds, they now are back to being mortal wounds. Your Chaplain will give you protection. Now, okay, your Watchers in the Dark will give you protection, but only once. So having a Chaplain gives you full game protection against Dev Wounds. So there is an advantage to it. Interesting interaction with Azrael leading Hellblasters. So
Yep.
I remember one game where I rolled 7 ones for the hazardous test, lost 7 Hellblasters turn 1. Now what would happen is I would take 7 lots of 3 mortal wounds, and what I would do is I'd pop Asriel's Watcher, and I'd start with the first model, and I'd make 3 feel no pains. If he survives, he then takes the next one and the next one until he dies.
Yeah.
And then you go until you've done all 7 lots of 3 mortal wounds. Now, I reckon, if my maths is correct, each guy's got a 50% chance of surviving. So if I roll, say, 6 ones, I'm probably only going to lose 3 rather than 6.
Rather than 7, yeah, which is good. Yeah.
Now, rolling 6 ones is highly unlikely anyway, but there you go. That's my dice for you. But the point is, Asriel with Hellblasters, your Watcher, if you get a load of hazardous rolls, that might be a good pick for when to use it.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't this also help the Lion then too? Like make the Lion more utility because he could go. Oh, I'm just gonna.
We'll
do we want to move on to the? Do we want to move on to the Lion?
Okay, yeah, we can. Yeah, once again, so we've got to talk about. I'm gonna put it in the show notes. It's like we got to talk about. All right, hold on. We're gonna revisit Inner Circle. Revisit, Deathwing Knights. Okay, on to Big Papa Lion, or as I like to call him, Kool-Aid Man L. Johnson.
Yeah,
Bailey, what's up?
Well, I just know that like the biggest change on this that people have noticed is that now when you go through ruins, one of the things that can go through ruins and ignore the walls are Imperial Primarchs. So haha, to all you Demon Fallen Chaos Primarchs, you still have to go around them like a peasant. Us loyal boys, we get to go through the walls.
And Belisarius Call, but we're not into that.
And Belisarius
Imperial
Call.
Primarchs. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah.
And
so you can. Yeah.
So the mobility factor, well, especially when you're playing. So like when I went to Tampa and played Games Workshop tables for 8 games straight, and I had the Lion, I had a good time, but you gotta pre-position him. You gotta deal with all the fire lanes, the lanes, and like you gotta move him with the things and in between the buildings. And yeah, it's kind of rough when your my Blade Guard were yeehawing through every wall, and my Assault Intercessors with Azrael were yeehawing through all the walls and going places. And the Lion's kind of, even though he has a lot of movement, was always behind them because he had to go around things. But now,
especially if you had to move him
anymore.
Sometimes you move him to get him out of line of sight, so you duck him into a ruin.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, you can't shoot him now. Maybe you got enemy within 12 inches, or maybe there's no one to protect him, so he hasn't got load up at all.
But his base is this big, so you're going to lose 3 inches of movement just
to get out again,
like expose him again. So the
massive change,
super big change.
And then what we're talking about is the fact his aura now finally protects against dev wounds again because they've become mortal wounds again.
And I think that the default should just be he uses the mortal wound protection aura, right?
Yeah.
There's very like I have never once seen the all secrets revealed aura actually do anything. And the +1 to hit one occasionally would come in if you're surrounded by big bricks of Terminators that are hitting on 3s. But I'm excited about using the Lion again. Like and his points didn't go up. He's still 300 points. Still wish he was -1 to wound. Still wish he had a 2 damage sweep attack. Those arguments have not changed. Hell, Gilliman has a 2 damage sweep attack.
But
right? He's a brainy administrator boy.
Here's another rules change though that makes him more interesting. Heroic Intervention is now 1 CP.
Yes, it is, sir. Yes, it is.
And the Lion fights first.
Yep. Yes, he does.
Charge somebody within 6 inches of Lion at your peril.
So I don't know if you noticed how many of the core strats changed. Again, it's slightly not Dark Angels, but just mentioning a load of them changed grenades, how grenades work changed, etc., etc. So it's worth going and visiting those and just reading those.
You can no longer grenade and then shoot when for impulsors. If you
can
shoot the impulsor and it blows up and then you jump out, you can't shoot again.
You can grenade and shoot. That's the one thing you can still do. What you can't do is advance and grenade or fall back and grenade.
Okay.
And you can't you can't shoot and then grenade, but you can grenade and then shoot.
Gotcha.
All right. I
so
thought I read
you
that.
Get your order correct.
Yeah. But what most players were doing was falling back and grenading. That was the big one. Or advancing. Like scouts, a lot of people would advance scouts way up the board, and then kill tech marines or something. Not that I'm basic,
Y'all,
because that me quite a lot.
The core rule update PDF is 21 megabytes, in case you didn't know that.
Yeah, it's big.
Okay.
Yeah, it's huge. Like we need way more time to talk about just the baseline stuff. Like that's just how intense it is. Yeah, because I did add in some notes here about the hazardous and stratagem change.
Yeah, the grenades thing, now it ties specifically to the grenade, the model that has the grenade keyword, not the unit that has a grenade keyword. So if it's like Centurions, where only one model may have the Centurion launcher, but anyway, yeah. So okay, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Back to impulsors, we're talking about core strats. Tank shock is now toughness rather than strength.
I do like that. That makes like, as you observed in my previous thing, like Imperial Knights, it takes away a tool from them, but I don't think that was the intent. But it makes repulsors and land raiders a legit threat. Tank shocking with those two models is going to be a real problem.
Something that does relate to Dark Angel specifically is Fire Overwatch. Now, there's a big debate about what happens if Hellblasters fire Overwatch, and then you pull from the closest model on a charge. Does it increase the charge distance? You know. Now, specifically, it says that when you fire Overwatch with hazardous, that you don't pull the models until after the charge.
Yeah, I did see that. Which made me so sad, because I remember that glorious game where I had someone deep strike in on Azrael with Blood Angels, and I intentionally overwatched, rerolled my hits into ones so that Azrael would die so they couldn't make their charge, and I cackled maniacally. I'd already lost the game, but I just wanted to see the look on their face when they did all this, wasted their 3d6 charge in CP, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to kill myself and you can't stop it. But now apparently you can.
You can. So they've done quite a good job in fixing some of the little sort of things that cause issues. Command reroll as well. I don't know if you picked up the change on that, but I don't know about you, but when you're playing at tournaments, especially towards the top tables, people were very picky about this. That if you wanted to reroll a dice, you had to slow roll until you got to the dice you had to reroll. You know, if you're rolling a bunch of saves, you know, you got to slow roll and decide if you want to re-roll. Now the rules specifically say, no, it's fine. Just fast roll the whole lot and decide if you want to re-roll one at any point.
Which is the way most people played it. But you know, if you're trying to be, so
100%.
Okay.
All right. So we're going back to Inner Circle.
All right. So we talked about the line. We talked about Deathwing Knights. We talked about that. Are there any other major changes? Do we want to talk about the detachment changes real quick?
Oh, so good. So good.
So I think we should hit the detachment change. So back to So okay. So the Inner Circle. No, sorry, not Inner Circle. The Unforgiven Task Force, which was the OG one. So it was changed. They added a single paragraph. So previously, you know, the Grim Resolve rule said if your OC is if you're battle shocked, you know, reduce your OC to 1 instead of 0. Right, which is situational at best. So now you can choose additionally in your command phase, select one Astartes unit from your army until the start of your next command phase, add 1 to the OC characteristic of models in that unit. I think this is a really big deal. I don't know exactly how much, because I haven't really fully digested the consequences of the changes to the primary missions from Pariah Nexus, but I think this is really big, guys. I
think it makes the detachment a lot better. I don't think it makes the detachment competitive.
So if it had said you do this and you can trigger any of your battle shock or pick a unit and they basically trigger the battle shock effect for their purposes or enhancements of stratagems. If there was a way to intentionally invoke that, I think we would be cooking. 100%. But that's not the case. No. So instead, you just basically get to say, I am on this objective and I have, you know, like this makes sure Black Knights with a command squad, OC4.
Yep.
So you can bring a guy back, make that unit OC4. Best of luck taking anything from them. So, yeah.
I like that.
So
yeah,
it's
a buff. It's a buff to the detachment, no doubt at all. And I think it will be good good for people who want to play that detachment. I don't think it'd be good enough to make it.
It's not gonna move you to the top tables. I think it'll make a capable player, be competitive at the mid tables. But yeah, you're not going to see it on stream. That being said, Bailey, what is the change to the Inner Circle task force?
Well, I don't know if I want to talk about it, if I just want to let Alan talk about it, since this is his baby.
All right.
But the main thing here is that it's not a command phase trigger. It is a movement phase trigger. So you have some time to do
I
some
didn't
things,
catch
see what
that.
pops
Okay.
off. Yeah. And then in your movement phase, you can choose one or two footings. You can choose a defensive footing or an aggressive footing. All right, and we all know who we are. We're going to be aggressive because that's the way the line intended it. But the defensive footing says you select one objective marker that you control, and at the start of until the start of your next movement phase, that is now your valid objective. Okay, seems normal. Like that's kind of what we had already. Much more fun. Select is aggressive push, which is select one or more objective markers you do not control. So basically, I pick
everything.
All the ones I don't. Yeah.
Turn one. Everything. So
and until the start of your next movement phase, each one of those objective markers is now a valid objective marker. And if a rule refers to a unit or model being within range of your valid objective marker, that rule takes effect. That unit or model is within range of one or more of the valid objective markers. So all the fun stuff happens as long as you are close to one of these things. And then each time a Deathwing infantry unit from your army makes an attack that targets a unit within the range of one or more of your valid objective markers, add one to the wound roll. So that would then affect Stern Guard, because I don't think they have the Deathwing keyword.
They do.
They're veteran.
They do.
They do?
Stern Guard, Vanguard, Terminators,
Blade Guard, Inner Circle. Yeah, and then you can make basically any infantry unit you want Deathwing by attaching one of the named characters: Asmodai, Azrael, Lazarus, or Ezekiel.
So you could do that to a squad of
Assault Intercessors and Hellblasters.
Yeah.
The one thing they could have done to have taken this to the next level is just remove that word infantry.
I agree. Alan and I were talking about this the other day. And yeah, because really, like, what would be the problem with my repulsors or my, honestly, let's not lie, my dreadnoughts, just walking in and unleashing the lion's pimp hand, like that would
giving the clamps, give them the clamps.
But unfortunately, that's not the case.
I mean, they've given Land Raider the keyword for understandable lore reasons. You can make your Land Raider Deathwing, fine. The only stratagem you can use is fight on death.
Yeah.
And if that's your winning strategy, you're probably in quite either a very strong position, or if you're having to use it, you're probably in a very weak position. It's probably not going to be game defining.
So let me ask you this question, Alan. Why do you think they changed the decision point of this to movement instead of command?
Okay, couple of reasons. Firstly, it means you can use it turn one. Because if you go first, you don't control your own objective. So you'd be able to use it on all 5 or 6 objectives. Secondly, it's to stop arguments about at what point it happens. Because all the controlling objective happens in the command phase, right?
Yeah.
So you get all that out of the way. By the end of the command phase, you know which objectives are controlled by whom.
Okay.
It's at the end of a phase, so anything like sticky objectives, that's all been resolved by now.
And you can't do any order of
order of operation.
Yeah, so controlling player, active player determines order of operation shenanigans. Yeah,
and you mentioned the apothecary bringing a model back. All that kind of shenanigans has already happened in the command phase. We're now in the movement phase. We know who the objectives are controlled by. There's no doubt. There's no argument. And then you go, great. You've got those 3. I've got these 2. Guess what? Your 3 are now vowed,
and I'm going to take them from you. They will soon be mine. Yeah.
So that's why they've done it like that, and that does make perfect sense. And I can see the opposite being useful, the defensive one, if you control say you've got your 3 objectives you really want. You're not looking to push. You want to keep what you've got. You know they're going to come into melee with whatever unit is holding an objective. You might think, actually, I want to hold this one. So actually, this one is giving me a bavard objective this turn.
Okay.
So I can see both being useful, but I think, like you say, I'm probably going to be aggressive more than defensive.
At least turns 1, 2, and 3, right? Turn 4 and 5. Hopefully, you can switch to a defensive footing once you've set your got your primary scored. So
yeah.
Okay. All right. So so for example, what we were talking about earlier, Inner Circle Task Force has exactly 2 battle tactics, one of which is Armor Contempt, and one of which is Unmatched Fortitude, which is the -1 to wound roll, or -1 to wound and melee against you. But so now the I guess Martial Mastery is an epic deed, and so you can make that for free.
Yeah,
which is really good. Yeah,
there's loads. I mean, it's just changed how things are going to be now, and I think captains are going to be useful because you can just pick and choose whichever stratagem is right for that particular moment.
And Martial Mastery is a really good interaction with the new and improved Deathwing Knights. Reroll wounds with anti-vehicle, anti-monster 4+ on your Vowed objective. Y'all, I'm here.
Yes, please. Yes,
that being said, I mean, do you really need +1 to wound? Yeah. Anyway, so
So that won't impact the anti.
Right. But because you can say everything is vowed, then I can do this over here, and my Hellblasters can get +1 to wound against something over there.
But it might be there's something, your +1 to wound makes a bigger difference. I know it might just be because on the vowed objective, as you say, use your Martial Mastery to re-roll your wounds, just so you are getting those falls.
Into a vehicle, you're going to be using that. If you're not into a vehicle, you're probably wounding them on 2s anyway. So
we like
it. I'm going to be in a Circle Task Force all the way. Okay, I'm setting my stall.
Let's go.
This is where I am. This is what I'm doing. But I still don't think it's necessarily the most competitive way to play Dark Angels. I suspect Gladius will be now. I think.
I mean, but I've talked to Heath about that forever, though, Alan. The Games Workshop came out at the beginning of the edition and told us Gladius Task Force is the best one, and it's going to be the most common, and they've gone out of their... It seems like they've gone out of their way to make it that way. Now, they've changed some things to make things a little more competitive, but yeah, I mean, anything in Gladius Task Force is like, yeah, just put in Gladius, but when you want to have fun and be a little special boy, here are some other less powered options, but you get to be special. And Inner Circle, as we were talking about, like, is going from that, well, I'm super special because not only am I have not Gladius, but I'm also not going to win anything, to, well, I'm going to maybe be in that 50-50 range, have a good time, scream for the lion a whole bunch, like basically be the orc player of Dark Angels. When we're, instead of whine, we're screaming for the lion and charging in and having a good time, and your opponents are like, oh, wow, how refreshing, a Space Marine list that's not Iron Storm or Gladius. All right, what does this do? And then you have the fun of, like, getting them with stuff. They're like, I didn't know you could do that. Why does nobody else do that? I'm like, well, because it's not as good as Gladius, but I don't care about winning. I just want to have a good time and try these new tricks out.
I think the lesser known thing works. The fact that people don't expect it. Like, I mean, you've played Firestorm, Heath. I've had one tournament with Firestorm. Got a friend who plays a lot of Firestorm. Because people don't know it, that's the X factor that helps. And I think
you've got an information advantage. Yeah.
So Inner Circle Task Force, I've been very consistently 3-2 at GTs, 2-1 at RTTs, 1-3-0 at an RTT. So it's been consistently kind of just over 50% for me, sort of 60-70%. I think this pushes it towards maybe more regular 4-1s. I don't know that it's going to push me to be winning tournaments within the Circle Task Force, but I do think these various changes do push it up, combined with a lot of other factions getting nerfs. You've got to bear in mind we're not looking in the vacuum here. We're not just looking at what's impacted our faction. other factions have been substantially nerfed. I tell you who I fear the most now. Do you know who that's going to be?
I saw that Tyranids got a big buff.
Tyranids got a big buff. Do you know who got the biggest buff was Admech? And I think
I haven't looked at it at all.
Good Admech players were already doing okay with Breacher spam. I think now they'll ramp it up, and I think suddenly you'll see a lot of Admech players doing very, very well.
The Beat Boop boys got some new Beat Boop toys.
They are crazy, and when Admech are good, it is a crazy time because there's usually there's like 70% or 80% are playing the shooty Admech, which is just could be very oppressive, and you're like, oh my gosh, what just happened to me? And then you run into the guys running the melee boys, and you're like, and this is again some previous knowledge here, and you're like, oh, they're not the shitty ones. Maybe I'll have a chance. No, you don't.
You see that 8th edition, Electro Priest spam again?
Yeah.
Ugh. Okay.
So do bear that in mind when we're talking about things that, I mean, would you two agree? Dark Angels are in a better play, subject to Ironstorm. Let's deal with that straight away. Ironstorm has been nerfed probably into oblivion, but certainly been substantially nerfed.
So the fact that so Ironstorm, so their two key enhancements, which were the Target Augury Web, which is lethal hits aura, is now a command phase pick one vehicle that works on that.
Yeah,
which is great. Previously to this, they had learned nothing from the Iron Father Pharos scandal at the end of 8th edition, and Master Machine War, which is the advance and shoot, fall back and shoot aura, now is once again only one vehicle. So Company of Hunters does this better. You want to advance and show your vehicles? Come to the Ravenwing. We have cookies.
Yeah. Mercy's weakness is 2 CP.
Mercy. Yep. And that's the one that gave you the sustained hits on
fives.
On fives.
Well, it made all your crits fives. Yeah. So if you had your lethal hit aura, you were lethal and sustaining on fives.
Yeah.
I just think they've taken away most of the toys for Ironstorm, and I think there's always going to be good players who'll make it work. But I think it's going to lose what it
most of it's not clearly the best choice anymore, which is good.
And I think, as you said earlier from your thing, 7th, 8th, 9th, I think there were plenty of lists out there that could deal with Ironstorm. I tried it once, and I built a really good meta Ironstorm list, and I hit Sisters that was full of Castigators, Warsuits, and Melters that he built. He said literally, I built this list because of the Ironstorm meta. And man,
that's the problem with dealing with being the king, right? Is everyone is shooting,
and then I hit a Black Templar list who was Ironstorm, who had built his list to defeat the mirror match. So it was never the best build. It was just the best Marine build, I think, and that's it's going to make a lot of us look at different choices and maybe come up with some interesting new stuff.
What we were saying earlier about having an information advantage by playing less known detachments is people they've not only do they know what you do exactly, maybe better than you, but they have prepped for it, they've worked on it, they have tactics specifically developed for it. And so they're running it probably in an information advantage over you.
I mean, your Firestorm thing, and you admitted you made a couple of mistakes, but that getting in and out of transport shenanigans that you could do, with the right situation, people having played against it before, had you had more reps and practiced it a bit more, that could have won games for you.
I'm telling you, like, now that repulsors can take 14 people, 14 models, and with Deathwing Knights being as like, I can jump out, move, fight something with the Deathwing Knights, move the Land Raider back up behind them, jump back in at the end of my turn, it drives off, they get out, charge something else. There's still play there, but I want to try the Dark Angel detachments now because I'm excited about that. So,
and one of the things I would like to point out on like the information advantage is like we're not talking about like intentionally hiding things from your opponent. Like if someone says, "Well, I have this," and they go, "Well, what does that do?" And you go, "Well, I have this, and stratagems are this or whatever," and they go, "Okay, whatever," and then you move on or. I usually when I run into something new, sometimes I'm just like, they're like, "Oh, I have this." I'm like, "Oh, I've never played that before. Let's just, I'll just run into it and see what happens. I'll run into the buzzsaw just to see what happens. I'm here for the experience."
And the reality is, you're in a noisy environment normally, tables cramped together, you're shouting at your opponent to try and get them to understand, and you're explaining all your stratagems, but unless you've got reps into it or with it, these things aren't going to sink in the same way. Everyone knows Arm of Contempt, and everyone factors that in. We're going to shoot that unit. You're probably going to Arm of Contempt. Great. Then I'll switch all my fire onto this unit to kill it. People know how to deal with that because they're used to it. But when it's a stratagem, you'll tell them what it is. I can do this. But unless they've got reps into it, they're not going to know how to deal with it.
There's an old, there's a learning theory called Bloom's taxonomy. Sorry to go into my teacher mode, but basically it's like there's 7 different stages of learning, starting with the fact that you know a fact, right? And then understanding what it is, and then being able to apply the consequence, moving up through the synthesis of all the different synergies between it and other pieces of information. And knowing a thing is a thing doesn't mean you know how it applies, right? Like I can jump out of my transports when you shoot them, and then jump back in the fight phase with a stratagem. Like that doesn't mean they have really. Oh, what does that mean for the threat lanes and the fire lanes and all my various? Yeah, it just messes up what their pre-planned tactics are, right? So
you can't
that's what
do
we
that.
Mean by information advantage.
Just to be clear, you can't do that in the same turn. I don't think, can you? I'm pretty sure that stratagem says you can't jump back in if you jumped out that turn.
Take a look.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, the firestorm.
And that's sort of like my point is like we're not talking necessarily about like we're trying to like hold something over somebody. It's just simply people don't have reps, and if they don't have reps, like that's not your fault. If you bring a list and they've never played it before, and you will have an advantage because they don't have that pre-plan, they don't have all these thoughts, and it's not your fault until like they ask you a question specifically and you don't answer them. Like don't do that. That's not very nice.
Yeah. Yep, Alan, you're right. That disembark from a transport this turn.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that, I think that would be too powerful. I think being able to get out, shoot, get back in again in the same turn.
That's some Harlequin level stuff.
Yeah, I was about to say that's some. We saw what the Harlequins did with that, but
So
okay, do we need to go back and talk about? So we've covered our detachments. Okay, so now what do we want to do?
Company of Hunters, I don't think has changed at all.
It hasn't.
But if we touch on the pivot rule, so. Because bikes aren't on round bases, they will have to pivot. And there's a lot of confusion here about what a pivot is, what a straight line is, all this sort of stuff. And as far as I can see from my reading of it, and you've talked about the levels of learning, so, as we learn the game, maybe some of this will become clear in different ways, is effectively a straight line could be a millimetre. So I think the straight line thing you don't need to worry too much about. I think the important thing is the facing. So if you've got all your bikes lined up behind the wall facing this way, and then you move them out, you're going to have to basically move them perpendicular to where they were all the way through. You're not going to be able to twist them at all. Any twist of any bike will cost you 2 inches of movement for that bike.
Does this... Okay, so now what this makes me think of is I need movement trays to make this... Yeah.
Well, no, because you're still going to go into lines and things, aren't you? Yeah. You're still going to go all over the place. But what you can't do is twist your bike without incurring a 2-inch penalty for that particular model. Now, it might not matter.
But you only pay the 2-inch penalty once per movement or charge.
Correct.
So it effectively reduces their movement by 2 inches.
Well,
if you need to move.
Not just movement and charge. As far as I can tell, and this might be debated and people might disagree, pile in and consolidate too, because they're moves.
I need
to
go read up on that. That doesn't seem intention. That doesn't seem right, but I would have to. Yeah, I have to go read on that. I don't think I'm ready to opine on that without reading some rules.
Yeah, I've looked into it, and as far as I can tell, you would have to pivot with a pile in or consolidate. Which if you think about how your bikes are set, and then maybe you want to move on to an objective, and you want to twist them to get as many models into combat as possible, could have a big impact.
Well, and then at the same time, too, like if you have various things, like I remember in previous editions where like you would engage something, like to stop stuff from getting shot, right? You would engage something, but not pile in, like you'd charge, you get one model in, so you couldn't kill the whole unit, and then just now that you're forced to pile in, if you intentionally pivot all your guys so they can't all pile in and fight, so then when you then pile in, see what I'm saying?
Because,
like there's a way.
Because the rule specifically says if you can get into range, you have to. So you wouldn't be able to intentionally pivot to lose movement. If you could do it, you could do it.
That's good.
Now, what it interestingly says, and this is really interestingly written in terms of consolidate, it now says if you're within 3 inches of engagement range of an enemy unit, your unit has to consolidate, which makes you think, oh my god, I don't want to consolidate into that unit. It's going to kill me. But then it says each model can decide to move on a model by model basis. So I think what it's trying to say is your counter's making a consolidate move, but you don't have to move. But if you do move, you have to engage with the enemy. Does that make sense?
Gotcha.
I think, they just say like they don't the consolidate step always occurs, but you don't have to move. So if there's any rules that trigger off of a consolidation occurring, the other player has the opportunity to interact with that phase of the game, but you're not required to make a move if you don't want to. I think that's what the intent is.
Yeah, that's certainly what it reads like to me, in terms of rules as written as well as potentially the intention behind it.
Like when they added the heroic intervention step to the charge phase, because remember when it used to be heroic interventions didn't really have a particular time, and so people would finish all their charges and then intentionally go as fast as possible to the first fight and try and get you to forget that, oh, I could have stopped to check for heroic interventions. And you were kind of, and they tried to make it seem like you were the bad guy for bringing up heroic interventions when it's like, no, I'm allowed, these are in the rules, I can do this. You trying to bulldoze me into the fight phase is not kind. And that's why that became a hardcore step in the rule, like an actual written rule, instead of just sort of, oh, this thing that can happen sometimes, because people were doing that. And I feel like that's kind of that same vibe.
Maybe they need a rapid ingress step then, because that happens sometimes as well, where they'll plow onto their movement, onto their shooting phase. You're like, hang on, have you finished your movement? And by asking that question,
you are formalizing this change. Like, I usually say, I will formally declare command phase onto movement. That concludes my movement onto the shooting phase, which I usually call the Dark Angels phase. But whatever.
Yeah.
So,
but the thing is, if your opponent's been a bit fast and loose with that, and you go, "Have you finished your movement?" You're telegraphing that you're going to rapid ingress, and then they might go, "Oh no, I want to move to screen out over here. This unit hasn't moved yet." So it's
Or if you just do it every single time, but or you say, hey, or if you think it's a problem, you could just say, hey, just so you know, I have things that require rapid ingress mechanics. I do have things in reserve, and if you move on to shoot, I would like to assume that concludes your movement phase. Therefore, before you do that, I'm going to perform a rapid. I reserve the right to perform reserve. Yeah. So anyway,
and it just comes down to: are you trying to play the best possible game of 40K, or are you trying to get shortcuts? Right, like for your opponent, like if you're trying to do all this stuff to it's like no, like I would look at it as like, all right, I'm ending my movement phase. Do you wish to rapid ingress? Like that would be a thing like I would do to get around. It's like, all right, I've done everything I'm going to do. If you intend to do this, now's the time to do it. And I kind of want you to do it so I can get practice at having to deal with it, because I don't become a better player if I just keep bulldozing through this and not ever giving my opponent a chance. Because, like you said, I will get sloppy and not think about it and not screen out, so that when I run into someone that goes, oh, by the way, because you didn't anticipate this and you didn't screen me out, I'm going to rapid ingress here, and now you're in trouble because you've never actually practiced against it. And that's where I feel like being on the forefront and helping people with that, it helps you have a better rapport with your opponent, especially if it's someone you've never played before. Shows them that you're not trying to sneak something in on them, right? Which is something that tournament players always seem to have that issue. I think I've talked about this before on the podcast, going to tournaments, and I don't know if I told you this, Alan, but I went to a tournament and I started to space out my guys the 2 inches, and some guy tried to tell me that no, you can't take a 5-man squad and spread them out like that. You have to have 2 models within 2 inches of each other. Like in the deployment phase, we already had a rules argument, and I was just like, all right, I'll put them the way you want. I'll look it up. Right, but like people have that mentality, right, in going in that they think this is what tournaments are. But if you're for a forefront in your like, this is what I'm doing, I want to help you play the best game you can play, and hoping that you will return me the favor, and it'll make both of you better players, be more relaxed, have more fun, and the feel bads are less in that scenario.
Yeah.
And I feel like that, like you're saying, like this is an area where there could be some fill bads because if people aren't anticipating rapid ingress, people are trying to force the issue with rapid ingress or force beyond it. You know, the salt starts to build up, and we don't want to be mining salt at the tournament table.
You can always just say, "Hey, let's stop for a second.
Yeah,
I would like to get a TO or a judge." But okay,
yeah.
I'd like to move on. I think. That being said,
That's
I
fair.
think there is something that we do need to talk about with regards to Company of Hunters. So, Company of Hunters lets you have battle line outriders.
Yes.
So, I have prepared, here is all the cards that trigger our battle line stuff from Pariah Nexus.
Okay.
So, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the mission rules by my brief browse through.
Out of 12, so half.
Yeah. Okay. So, half of them, which is what they said. So, the first one is Swift Action. Battle line units that advance or fall back are still eligible to perform an action this turn. I love this for Company of Hunters.
Quite a bit of a segue there. Rules change for those that didn't know it. Assault does not let you do an action after advancing anymore.
Yeah. Which is why a lot of people think that Firestorm took a huge nerf, because that was a big part of their kind of meta, viability. I personally think Firestorm is still great because, look, I'll do actions when you're dead. Right? I'll just kill you. But that's all right. So anyway, I think Swift Action is something that Company of Hunters, you should have 1, maybe 2 units of Outriders just to take advantage of that. So the next one is Prepared Positions. It says players can target their battle line units with Go to Ground and Heroic Intervention for 0 CP, but not if they've already used the stratagem on a different unit this turn.
Okay. Imagine heroic intervention on Berserkers, World Eater Berserkers for free.
Good lord. Okay, thanks for that. Well, they do their Blood Surge move anyway.
Yeah, Death Guard Plague Marines with the Fight First guy.
Yeah, the Putrefier, the Stinky Boy, whatever his name is. Yeah, Stinky Boy.
Salt Intercessors with Azrael.
Yeah.
They don't fight first, but yeah.
They still slap though.
They still slap. Okay. So the next one is
I like that.
Raised Banners. So at the end of each player's turn, if a battle line unit from the army is within range of an objective marker, the unit raises a banner on that marker, and therefore they score 1 victory point, which counts towards secondary score. And you can no longer raise a banner on that objective marker. So basically, you'll get 1 victory point for each objective. So, but yeah, you can go, I touch this objective, I get a victory point at the end of my turn. It's not command phase beginning, it's end of turn. So it'll farm you a few extra victory points throughout the game, but it has to be battle line. And this doesn't require an action, this just says presence on the objective. So advancing your bikes will help a lot there. Then you have Stalwarts. Battle line units that perform an action are still eligible to shoot. And battle line units can perform actions within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units.
Because also you can't with pistols anymore.
Okay. So I think, Outriders aren't a terrifying shooting unit, but that doesn't suck. That's fine. Other units are going to get more. Now, intercessors or things like that are going to get a lot more use out of that, right? So, Smoke and Mirrors. You can, after having deployed your armies, starting with the attacker, place 1 unit from your army on the battlefield in strategic reserves, regardless of how many units are already in strategic reserves. I guess this doesn't technically require a battle line, but it's a cool rule. All right. And there's a point limit on it, which is 500 points.
I thought that was battle line. I thought it was only battle line units you could do that too.
It doesn't say that on the card, unless that's been changed in the...
Oh, no, it hasn't. For some reason, I thought that was...
Nothing on here says battle line. Yeah, 1 unit from their army that is on the battlefield into strategic reserves, regardless of how many units. Now, you're probably thinking about the next one, which is Rapid Escalation. So it says, in the first battle round, each player can set up battle line units from strategic reserves in the reinforcement step of their movement phase, wholly within 6 inches of any battlefield edge. No model can be set up within the enemy deployment zone. And the point total is 10%, or limit is 10% of the total points for the chosen battlefield size. So you can put 200 points of battle line from strategic reserves into play on turn 1 from strategic reserves.
Where's it sound? Does it sound turn 1 on there?
In the first battle round.
Okay, right.
Interesting.
So, yeah. Okay.
Again, Berserkers.
Yeah.
Plague Marines.
But
actually, you're right.
Boys.
You're right. Asriel with Assault Intercessors could be one for us.
Yeah.
But actually, no, 200. No, they wouldn't. Not with 200 points.
That wouldn't be able to, well, no, they would, because Assault Intercessors are 95.
85. It'd have to be a small.
Or 85, yeah. So you, and Asriel's 105, so you would be under 200.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you're giving one of our best units into a first 9-inch charged, and But anyway, yeah.
So, okay. So, anyways, just those are the things that's the things that Battleline does, right? And Ravenwing Company of Hunters has an interaction with Battleline that no other unit or detachment in the game that I'm aware of does. Anyway,
so here's the thing. I think it's going to be quite important about those particular cards you read. Now, in your friendly games, of course, you'll design a list. You won't necessarily know what you're playing, and you'll maybe draw your cards at random, in which case, fine. If you go into a tournament, chances are you'll get a tournament pack, and that tournament pack will tell you what missions you're playing and what special rules you're having. So I think it's going to be very important not to just go, here's my list. Instead, you'll go, here's my list, let's look at the tournament. Right, okay. These are the missions that the tournament's playing. Do I need to adjust my list in any way? Do I need to think about more battle line? Have I put a load of battle line in there that I don't actually need because none of those missions involve battle line? And the one you missed isn't a mission rule, but it's a secret mission. I don't know whether you've looked at those, but there's a secret mission which involves getting your battle line unit into the opponent's deployment zone, and the opponent not having any battle line units or not having a battle line unit in their deployment zone. It's something like that.
It's an attacker called War of Attrition. So when ends the battle, one or more battle line units from your army are within the opponent's deployment zone, and there are no battle line units from your opponent's army on the battlefield or within your opponent's deployment zone.
Yes, that's right.
So yeah.
But again,
that scores you 20 VP.
Will secret missions be a thing? We don't know yet, and I think we're going to have to see how they play out and whether people are going to tech their armies into secret missions, because if you do, you're maxing your VP at 90. So that's big. Mm-hmm. But maybe there are people out there that are looking at ways of almost guaranteeing 90 with the way they design their list, whilst at the same time denying you points.
I think if you can, because once again, a secret mission isn't a guaranteed thing you're going to do. And if you're considering doing a secret mission, you're basically pivoting off your primary. And if you think you can pull 90 points out of a loss, or something that was going to be a loss, enough for you to consider abandoning primary, I'd be pretty happy with that.
The point I'm making is you might design your list specifically. Let's say that one, you design your list where turn 5 you can get a battle line unit in your opponent's zone. For the sake of argument, I don't know how, but you figured out you can do that. Whilst at the same time, you only then need to score 20 normal primary. So you can score 20 primary either early or late game. You spend the entire game then just denying your opponent primary, never going on objectives.
Killing all their battle line units.
Killing all their battle line units, denying them any primary, denying them secondaries. You score 90, and you're making sure they score less than 90. Now, that might be your entire army list and battle plan.
And I think Ravenwing the Company of Hunters has the technique for that, because you can take a Ravenwing command squad, attach them to a Outrider unit, and then just like on turn 2 or 3, 1 CP, they go into strategic reserves. On turn 5, they just drop in on your opponent's backfield. That's 20 points, baby. There we go.
There you go.
And I think that's quite viable, because you can take 2 more command squads.
Yeah. So it's things like that I think, with respect, the really clever players will will make those lists and do well with them and come up with these things that as mere mortals may not have
they're running to that top level of the pyramid, man.
Yeah, and they will be doing this. They'll be on tabletop battles and they'll be trying all this sort of stuff and trying all these different lists. And someone out there will be going, how do I make these secret agendas work? How do I make them? Because all the way they're going to be going, I'm maxing at 90. So how do I make sure that A, I always score 90, and B, my opponent always scores less than 90? And if you can do that, secret missions work.
Yeah.
And don't forget,
so bear that in mind.
Don't forget, secret missions are the most Dark Angels thing we can do as well. Because we
I miss secret point. I miss secret agenda. Yeah. I so miss secret agenda.
Bailey, you get an inspiration point for that. Good job, sir.
So. Yeah, that was.
All right. Do we have anything else we want to talk about with Inner Circle Companions or Deathwing Knights with regards to this? The context of these two detachment we just talked about.
Should we sort of circle around this a little bit, talk about characters that go with the both of them? Is that something that's...
Yeah, that's what I was... Yeah, okay. So, Inner Circle Companions. One, let's just say, what named character do you think you would like to run with them? And then we can talk about, non-named or more generic characters. So, think, like we've said, Azrael, well, advantages, he gives the 4-up invul save, right? And he gives them sustained hits for the lethals. But the opportunity cost of using Azrael with them means he doesn't go with Hellblasters, which is, I think, that's a compromise I'm not willing to make, personally.
I agree. So, and also, if you were going to put him in an Impulsor, that's a CP you've lost straight away.
I put Azrael in a transport almost every game on turn 1, because on turn 1, I am probably going to have to ditch one of my secondaries anyway. And there's no point in limiting my mobility, right, of my Hellblaster, one of my Hellblaster units, just to get a CP that I'm probably going to get with ditching a secondary. So that's kind of the way I approach that. And also, another point, in Pariah Nexus, you can ditch one or both of your secondaries. All right, I think.
Okay.
Or there's something else with the way secondaries...
No. Yeah. You could always ditch both secondaries.
Yeah.
The difference in Pariah Nexus is you can now use the new orders every single turn if you want to, but that costs you CP to do.
Yeah. So... Okay, so Azrael, I think...
But actually, coming back to your point then, what you used to do, put him in to ditch a thing, if you had him on the battlefield, you would gain a CP. Instead of ditching one, you could replace one. Spend that CP to replace one.
Okay. Yeah, so knowing that you have multiple uses of new orders, well, I mean, I don't know. I still don't know if new orders
I almost never use it.
Turn 1.
I never use it turn 1 because I want to use new orders later. But if I can use new orders every turn,
what's the odds you draw one you're going to be able to score on turn 1? There's 18 in your deck, right? And of those, maybe 2 or 3. Like if you pull Area Denial, or if you're engage, maybe, right? You don't want to. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not as familiar enough with the secondaries really right now to know kind of what the. That's a thing that we're probably going to talk about on the next episode, Bailey.
If you go second, of course, there's probably more chance.
Yeah, no, I agree now.
Yeah. So it's
just, you can get cleanse or purge or one of the things you can knock somebody off an objective. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, Azrael, I agree with you. I think he works great with Inner Circle Companions. I just think he's probably better off somewhere else.
Yep.
I think Ezekiel's a good pick. I think Asmodai isn't a bad pick. What I find particularly annoying about the two, Ezekiel and Asmodai, is Ezekiel is still officially sold in his 25mm base, so he's tiny.
Yeah.
And Ezekiel, so Asmodai's, and I think it's a 50mm base.
It's a 50.
He's huge.
Yeah.
And they both have 4 wounds. Why Asmodai only has 4 wounds on a base that big? I have no idea.
Well, it's because Zeke has traditionally had Artificer armor, so he's traditionally had 2-up armor.
Yeah.
And Asmodai has a Watcher that walks around with him, doesn't he? No, he doesn't. No, he just has smoke. He just has incense. So okay.
No, he has a book. And a
book. Which looks cool, by the way. You did a good job.
I'm working on mine right here.
Personally, if I was if I was going to put a named character, I think I'd go for Ezekiel for that extra attack. And Ezekiel's got some extra, abilities and stuff that are quite useful as well.
He can force a battle shock check within 12 inches. I think depends on what else is in your list. Asmodai would give you the automatic rerolls so that you can be chasing that sustain 2 or the lethals, and I think that's really good.
Are you not probably going to be putting them into your Oath of Moment target anyway?
Maybe not, because I think that having multiple sources of reroll generation is important.
It's not bad, but the problem I found with Asmodai, because I have played around with them quite a lot, is yes, it's great if you're going into a non-Oath target, but it kind of almost makes you want to, if you see what I mean. Whereas, it kind of feels bad when you're putting him into your Oath target because effectively you're wasting his ability. So
yeah.
I just like it for when I'm in matchups, like when I go into Knights. I think I talked with Heath about like the Knight matchup where it's not enough for me to kill one Knight or one Armiger a turn. I need to kill like 2 or 3 Armigers in a turn and 1 to 1.5 Knights. And so having to dump all my abilities into killing one thing, exposing my whole army for it to all get picked up on my opponent's turn is rough. Whereas if I have multiple sources of rerolls, it's like, okay, I can go kill this Armiger with Asmodai and the Inner Circle Paintings. These guys can go Oath that guy and fight him, and that's always been my biggest struggle. That's why I was so happy when Heath was like, yeah, I wouldn't smoke these Knight guys, and I was very happy for him because I can't stand playing Knights because I just can't find the magic code, the magic units to be able to kill them all consistently multiple ones a turn. I can kill one, but I can't kill more than one.
I know. I think the thing about Asmodai is you need to have him in a transport or like a land raider, so that just for that reason you can get him and his boys to some place where he can do something that is not your Oath target. So like Asmodai with 10 Assault Intercessors, or Asmodai with the Inner Circle Companions and 5 Assault Intercessors, or regular Intercessors. I don't know, because you could put multiple squads there. So yeah, he needs mobility to be able to get where he's going to show people his book and explain to them why they're wrong. So, yeah, I don't know. I think they're both really interesting. So Ezekiel, because they give them the +1 attack, that is also very, very spicy. Because 6 attacks and that sweep attack, man, with sustain 2, good lord. So, but then once again, you're basically forcing yourself to put them into your Oath target.
Yeah.
But that's just these are the pre-planned tactics that you're going to figure out with your list. But I'm going
to be honest. I think what I'm going to do with because I've got 6 in the companions, is I'm going to stick a librarian with them
for the 4-up invul.
For the 4-up invul. So it's not going to give them any better damage out. But apart from what the librarian gives himself, I mean, he's not nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not going to buff the unit per se. But I just think, giving them that 4-up invul just gives them that extra level of survivability.
Okay. I think so. A Judiciar, like you said, but the problem with Judiciars is they're really there to make you durable on the counter charge, and without an invul save, even though they're -1 to hit, it's just you don't want them no one's going to charge something with a Judiciar in it, so they're just going to shoot them, right? And I've tried that with Blade Guard, and it doesn't work very well, at least in my opinion. So the Libby.
But coming back to what I said earlier, OC2. So if you're going into a mostly melee opponent and you have your Judiciary and 6 ICC sat on an objective, what's he going to do? He's not going to come and charge into you to get you off, and you can't necessarily just walk into it to OC you off because you've got OC 13 sat there.
Yeah. Oh, good lord. And then they're -1 to hit, and then a 4-up invul save if there's a librarian there. So, yeah. I mean, that's okay. So what about a regular Space Marine captain, and possibly attaching a lieutenant? I mean, kind of redundant.
I think he is a little bit. I mean, obviously he's got his fallback and charge, which is always useful. Fallback, shoot, and charge. But
depending on the detachment you're in,
they've got no
that may not be required.
And in
Gladius, you don't need it. Yeah,
you don't need it. I would say lieutenant is better placed in, say, Blade Guard, where the lethals matter.
Yeah. your regular captain, I think giving him so he's got his finest hour thing.
Yeah.
The +3 attacks with the dev wounds. Bailey's sprung that on me with some blade guard at Adepticon, and I was concerned. But
I think the captain could be okay with his power fist and whatnot. But I think the problem with the captain is he doesn't do anything else. He's a good thing himself, and yes, he can give them a cheap or free strat, but he doesn't give them anything. He doesn't give them that protection the librarian gives them. He doesn't give them sustained hits. He doesn't make them either better or more durable, really, in the same way.
So another opportunity cost thing here is if you're doing this in the Inner Circle Task Force, once again, obviously the detachment matters significantly.
Of course.
If you put them into librarian, because they come with the Deathwing keyword, and so putting one of your named characters removes as one less non-Deathwing infantry unit that you can make Deathwing to So I think you're convincing me. I think a librarian's a really good choice here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's certainly not the only choice. And I think if for whatever reason you weren't taking Hell Blasters, then I think Asriel is the choice.
Yeah.
Well, and we're still trying to live in a post-Hero Hammer world, because let's not forget when lists were basically 3 Smash Captains and some 32 Guard and whatever else, and just consistently as we've gone from 8th to 9th into 10th into this point, just looking at how like Thunder Hammers are down on damage, Thunder Hammers have been changed a bunch of times, the way enhancements and upgrades work now, they're intentionally trying to stop you from having these like crazy Smash Captain like characters. So that's why we're in this discussion, in my opinion, of we gotta, what does this character do for my unit? Because we're no longer think of how do I have the best, most powerful character? It's how do I get my characters to force multiply my units? And if they don't force multiply at all, then I don't want, there's no point in it. And
the best thing being the character benefits from the unit's rule and the unit benefits from the character's rule.
Right.
So
yeah.
Okay.
And then, similar for Deathwing Knights, who do you choose? So in this case, with Deathwing Knights, for me, because I'm going to win 10. Yeah. So I'm going for Librarian on one squad because I want those sustained hits on the maces.
You sniped me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put him in a Land Raider. Now I go for a normal Land Raider because that hasn't gone up in points, and I want a bit of anti-tank with the las cannons, multi-melter. And then I'm going to put a captain with the other 5. And the reason I'm going to put a captain with the other 5 is twofold. It's because the captain allows me to reroll charges for free.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm probably going to be deep striking that unit. I might be rapidly ingressing it. We get teleport homers now, so I might be 3-inch deep striking it and sticking it somewhere weird and wacky. Won't do much that turn, but it will have that threat level.
Right.
Probably not, but it's a possibility. But also with the free strat, yes, you can't use AOC twice, but that unit that deep strikes is probably going to get shot a lot. So having that free AOC or whichever, -1 to wound, etc., is going to just help because the thing with Deathwing Knights is you want them to be durable. You want the opponent to have to throw so much at them instead of everything else. So I think having a captain in there does give them that level of durability. I think because you can use a strat and then another strat. So you can use AOC and -1 to wound because you get your free one and then another one.
Do you usually give your captain the fist or the weapon?
So I would give him the fist, but I've got the Leviathan one, and I can't be asked to remodel it.
So I usually I have 2. I have the Inner Circle Praetor model from Heresy, which has a fist, which I usually give them, and I also have the Marduk Cedrus model, which has a dope ass sword, and I love that model so much. But the fit, I just need the Strength 8 weapon in that squad. So maybe with the Knights having all that anti, now I can go to having a sword, and the Knight they just basically flip their duties. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think I still prefer fists over swords. I think when you look at the stats and weigh them up, I think fists are generally
they're all
better,
the same.
But
they're all strength. They're all AP2 damage 2. The sword's 1 extra attack at strength 5, and the fist is 5 attacks at strength 8.
But that makes a lot of difference. There's so much stuff that's
with
in
the
that
plus
5
1 to wound.
8.
You're going to be wounding everything on 4s. So, yeah.
What about Belial in there then? Now since we're
Belial's
still not taking him.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
So here's something else with the dev wounds. I just flipping through looking for Belial with Master Lazarus. His psychic helm is a 3-up feel no pain against psychic attacks and mortal wounds. So now that dev wounds has gone back.
But that's only for him. That's his model, not his unit.
Yeah, never mind.
Get up. Yeah. Lazarus is, do you need to make a Deathwing unit or a Hellblaster unit Deathwing? And Zeke and Asmodai and Azrael are already taken. That's the only reason I would consider taking Lazarus. So.
I really want to take Belial because he's such a cool model. Well, he's not a cool model. He's a cool character. I actually prefer his older model, but there you go.
Yeah,
he's a cool character. He's and I'm a Deathwing player, so leader of the Deathwing and all that. But I just think
his backpack game was better. It used to be better.
Yeah, 100%. I think his old model's really interesting, whereas his new one looks like a captain. Like a Terminator captain. He doesn't look particularly.
I don't know. I liked his old. The old pose was better too. I don't know. It was just something very regal about it. I don't know. Standing there with his weapon up, not like yay, get him. Just like he's going through a martial kata or something. Anyway,
but coming back to what you said earlier, I think an ancient is a perfectly reasonable pick. I think the thing with the Ancient is his other, apart from his OC, his other abilities like is it +1 to hit if you go below starting strength or something, isn't it?
It's a bit ineffectual on Deathwing Knights unless you put them into something with -1 to hit.
Yeah.
Which the extra OC is why I take him. The +1 to hit if I'm running something that's -1 to hit is that's found money. On regular Terminators, he makes them hit on 3s. That's great if they have chain fists, but
and of course in Unforgiven you give him the
Penitent Remembrance, the Penitent Remembrance, which is dope. But for a that would be like if you could auto trigger battle shock effects in Unforgiven, that would be. Sorry, my Deathwing Knights with a 4-up feel no pain all day long.
You've presumably seen what they've done to Orcs. You've seen what they've done to Orcs. The Bully Boys, their feel no pains now gone down to a 5-up rather than a 4-up.
Good, because 4-up feel no pains are toxic. They are straight up toxic. It's a mechanic that basically shouldn't be in the game. The concept of a feel no pain just drives me crazy. Anyway, man.
But I think an Ancient's got a spot. But for me, I think the Librarian for the sustained.
I think you're spot on with the Librarian to get the that's 40. Sorry, so they're 4 attacks each, 5. That's 20 attacks. You're going to trigger 3 or 4 additional, right? If you oath them, and then.
I tell you what, I'm because you're hitting on 2s. You're re-rolling anything that's not a 6. You're fishing straight for 6s.
Anything, yeah. And then being able to, and then the
as you're re-rolling wounds as well because you've spent the strat.
It's just gonna murder stuff. Yeah, so it's good. It's real good. Okay, man, I'm so excited to play this. I
think we're still going to struggle into things like Catan and even things like Redemptive Dreadnoughts. Anything with a -1 or half damage is going to cause us issues, but. At least we've got -2 AP now, so even if they are of Contempt, they're still on a, Redemption's on a 3-up save rather than the 2-up save.
Yeah. I know. I just you need different tools for that. So, and I think that the Redemptors, that's kind of why you need melta weapons, I guess. Yeah. I'm a real fan of that little Maybe that's the thing you could do with Lazarus, is you could attach him to a unit of Devastators and put him in a Razorback. So that they get the Deathwing keyword, so they can move, jump out, shoot at something on an objective to +1 to wound with re-rolling with multi-meltas.
Ooh. Yeah,
I don't know. I'm just
gross.
riffing here. So
And then go Firestorm
yeah,
instead, maybe, with all the Firestorm shenanigans. And they can do +1 to wound as well with
but you
within
have
their
to be within
strats, can't
6
they?
inches. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to be within 6 inches.
But they'll be strength 9 then as well. Strength 12 then.
Strength
10.
10. Yeah,
Sorry, it's
strength
starting
10.
to get later. Strength 10, yeah.
Yeah. So, which is the thing I did a lot in that detachment. So, okay, okay. I think that we've at least covered the the things and the kind of the immediate consequences, and I can't wait to find out kind of how we're going to move through the rest, the beginning of this new season.
And that's the key, right? We're all excited to go back, get our models back out on the table, right? Like that's always the best part. Is like stuff we haven't got to play with in a while. We're gonna get it back out on the table and try it again, and that's what makes this part. It's like Christmas.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that we talked about before the show started, which I think are interesting for Dark Angels in particular. And this is to do with the Codex Space Marine FAQ. Suggest everyone go and read it. There's a lot of stuff in there about stuff, a lot of stuff we knew already, but it's just confirming it. But interestingly, there's been a lot of discussion over the last year about rapid ingress and how it integrates with outer phase rules. Can you rapid ingress turn 1 if you've got certain things, etc., etc.? And interestingly, the FAQ deals with a couple of specific examples. And one of those is you cannot rapid ingress a drop pod turn 1. Okay, there you go. That's now in the FAQ. But it says, can I set up a unit that has a Hunter's Instinct enhancement from strategic reserves during the first battle round? Yes. Additionally, you can set up a unit within your opponent's deployment zone during the second battle round.
But the master maneuver or whatever, the equivalent ability for Ravenwing Company of Hunters, is that a yes or?
That's not mentioned.
I mean, it's worded the same. I would think that could be precedent. But
and then, can I target a unit that has Hunter's Instinct enhancement with rapid ingress stratagem during the first battle round? Yes.
Okay.
So there you go. So a couple of facts, and like you say, you'll be able to potentially interpret other similar rules based on those. And I think there's going to be a lot of arguments around what you can and can't rapid ingress now, because the other thing that's happened in Leviathan is they've changed the wording up on the first turn restrictions, and they've made it a little bit clearer, because before it was a big paragraph with a bracket at the end, and it wasn't clear whether the bracket affected the whole paragraph or part of the paragraph. They've now bullet pointed it, so it's really, really clear what it means. So
you're talking about the little booklet thing?
A little booklet, yeah.
Okay.
It's now super easy to actually look at that and go, okay, that's what it means in terms of what you can and can't do turn 1. And for those that haven't seen it, actions are now defined.
Oh yeah, that's really
good.
It's let me see if I can find it for you. So it is step 8, reserve restrictions. So no more than half, blah blah blah. But the important bit, bullet point 2.
Is that in this?
Yeah.
I think it's
Step
8 is declared. Oh yeah, reserve restrictions. There it is. Okay.
So bullet point 2, reserve units cannot arrive on the battlefield during the first battle round, brackets, excluding units placed in strategic reserves during the battle. So what that says is, if you start on the battlefield and lift, then you can come back turn 1.
So you can scout back up in and then come back.
So you
go
second.
Ravenwing or something, yeah.
Yeah, so you go second, the opponent finishes their turn, you lift your scouts, they can come back your turn 1.
Yeah.
So reserves cannot arrive during the first battle round unless they were placed into strategic reserves during the battle, in which case they can come during the first battle round.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay.
I mean, that's how everyone was playing it anyway, but I think the wording's been tightened.
That's much clearer. That is much clearer.
So, yeah, it's exciting time, I think. Like you say, 10.5 we're in now, I think. I don't know when you guys have got your next tournament. Mine's a month away, and
we are. There's a tournament going on today. Like the Pariah, like they had the last Leviathan RTT yesterday, and their first Pariah Nexus RTT is today at one of our local stores.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not like I was not able to jump in that, but I'm going to go play a game on Wednesday, hopefully, and then I don't know when our next tournament after that is. We have a GT out here in August, I think, is what we're playing on the first week of August, weekend in August. So if any guys want to pop out to Honolulu to play in a GT, hit me up. I got a spare bedroom, so
there we go.
And air conditioning.
And actually, we don't have air conditioning in that bedroom. Sorry.
Ooh.
So yeah, but you don't really need it anyway. All right, man.
Hobby challenge? Are we hobbying? Are we challenging? All right, so I didn't get
not done.
Got built.
Not done.
I got my 3 dudes built, and I was lucky enough right before the 90-degree weather consistently every day hit. I was able to get out and get these guys primed, and I was able to use some of the nice Games Workshop primer instead of the Rust-Oleum cheap stuff from Walmart. So
my airbrush broke, and I had to order a new one. But I'm not going to use that as an excuse. Ooh. It's just a statement of fact. No, I probably had the opportunity, especially with the holiday on last Wednesday, but I had other priorities I had to do, so I did make it. Do not pass.
Oh, yeah. How much are you looking forward to painting that banner?
I've already done one of them.
I've done one before, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I know what I'm getting myself into.
So I'm really proud of mine. I on all the streamers on it, I used like one of those 0.02 micron pens, and I went and King Theoden from the Ride of the Rohirrim, go forth and fear no darkness. I wrote that on the banner.
Wow. No, nice.
Yeah. So
that's cool.
Oh, very impressive.
Yeah.
It can't be any worse than this little guy with his soft, subtle pinks and blues and whites all on top of each other that I've been doing for my Napoleonics campaign. So that banner
Bailey once again proving he's the old man in the room by pulling out his Napoleonics.
So, I painted. There's a Firefly miniature game, and I painted Mal from Firefly.
Oh yeah.
With 5 different browns, because he's got a leather coat and leather boots and trousers and I wanted to make each one distinct. So 5 different browns just to pull it all together. And actually, I think it turned out okay. So
my wife, I got my wife a custom D&D character from Eldritch Foundry for I don't remember what it was. Some thing that warranted a gift. I think it was either Christmas or Valentine's Day or something. I don't know. But and that came, and then I painted it for her. That was the deal. Nice. We'll design this for you, and then I'll paint it to the best of my ability. And so that we played that for the first time yesterday. But it's the same thing as like brown coat, different green cloak, like brown, like just all these little different browns for an elf ranger. So that was tough.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, and I did a lot of different browns for the lion, for his the lion face on his pauldron.
Yep,
I learned a lot about painting brown with that. So no, I got nothing to show off here. So Alan, you got any painting you want to swag off here?
I did. I mean, as you know, I've mentioned it before. I'm a speed painter, and I played lots of different armies. So on Thursday, I did 20 termagants.
Oh,
there you go. Yep, I know what that life's like. I had a lot of termagants at one point. Yeah,
and then I realised after, because I used one of my other ones as a just to make sure the colour scheme was matching, and then I realised the base on these ones is smaller than my current ones, so I've now had to go and buy a whole load of base extenders to put on my old ones.
Oh, it's not too bad.
Yeah, so
I got a new 3D printer, and so I'm looking forward to being able to use that for all the various I need base or this type of things. So
brilliant.
All right.
So for next month, I saw you had a box. I've opened the box. I don't know if I told you this. I don't think you've heard this unless you heard it on the podcast, right? Where this is the box that Mike Brandt specifically got for me at Adepticon and gave to me when I asked for the new Dark Angels stuff. He didn't go get new Deathwing Knights. He didn't go get the various other things. He went and got me this, and I was just like, Thanks, Mike.
I think you mentioned that
one thing I wasn't gonna buy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that on an episode once. So
that's the infamous.
So are you allowed
right
to
there.
start? Are you allowed to start your new hobby challenge before you finish your other one?
Yes, because if not, then we never get anything done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Never get anything done. So,
basically,
I've got another. Yeah, I got another 3 or 4 hours to work here today. I should probably need to go walk the dog here, not too terribly long, but I'll be able to get 3 or 4 hours done, and maybe I don't know if I want to prioritize Asmodai. I think I'm going to work on Asmodai. That's what I want to do. So I want to get him done so I can put him with a unit of 10 assault intercessors and just go once again. So, all right. Do you want to just okay? So community interaction. We have our community interactor right here. So let me just answer some of your questions. All right. Okay. So you commented that it's impossible to rapid ingress on turn 1 on Leviathan. I didn't know that because my opponent was very confident that it was, and this whole army was built around it. So I'm like, sure. That sounds like a thing that should be able to do. As we just talked about in Prior Nexus, it is possible with that specific rule, Hunter's Instinct. So then you ask, why did I fall back from Canis Rex when battle shocked? Just shoot him in melee. Because I didn't think that my battle shocked repulsor was going to kill him. Because he had like 10 wounds left.
But you could have shot him with other stuff.
Yeah, I forgot about that. So
okay. See, we're just
I was like, I needed my Hellblasters to shoot him, and I forget that Big Guns Never Tire works both directions in 10th edition.
Yeah.
So
because I was following, and I was going, okay, yeah, you're doing really well. I was like, your battle shot, why? You got a third of a chance of losing a tank compared to -1 to hit. Oath of Moment him, you're hitting, on 4s anyway.
But that tank did 6 mortal wounds to Canis Rex when he blew up.
Sure.
So once again, can't rely on that.
No,
but he did it. But he did.
Moment achieved.
So, yeah. So, tank shot capped at 6. Once again, didn't know that. Forgot about that. Or maybe I just rolled a little bad. I don't know. I lost all the luck that I generated by having the tank blow up and do maximum damage to Canis Rex was balanced by below average rolling on all the invols and the washer for that squad. So again, it was not the right decision in that case to allow Canis Rex to charge them. I should have picked them up into the transport and then just jumped them out the back end.
Which, but again, that's a rep thing, isn't it? That's
that's a rep thing. That was game 3 on day 1, and I had realized after game 2 I don't have enough practice with this. And I looked at it, and I specifically said I thought that they would be able to tank it, and I just made the wrong decision. So, And then you said Combi Lieutenant Tech Marines are a common thing for Ironstorm list. It is, and I think at the beginning of the season or the beginning of the Space Marine Codex release, we saw a lot of 3 Tech Marine lists, and we have seen it a lot less since then. So just commenting on the progression from people understanding I don't need 3 Tech Marines, I need 2 and something else. So, now you're going to need none of them. Now you're going to need none of them. I need none of them. So, yeah. So, okay. So that's I learned a lot about that list in that thing, or in that tournament. And I still think that there's some viability in Firestorm, but I'm obviously be playing some different stuff now. Most of the stuff I'm writing has double unit of Hellblasters. I've had a lot of luck with that, splitting Azrael and in one and the Lieutenant in the other, with either the Fire Discipline or the Champion of Humanity. Because it's just so much overkill when it's one unit.
Yeah, I'm going to be going Azrael and the Lieutenant with 10 Hellblasters and seeing how that works.
In a circle. Without Champion or Fire Discipline, it's probably less overkill to the point where you probably do want to put him in there. So, but with +1 to wound, that's going to be really nice. It's going to be really nice. So
yeah, and of course your lethal hits, and you can fall back, and the other stuff the Lieutenant adds to this.
Yeah.
But speaking of Ironstorm, I'd be very remiss by not mentioning Toby Bennett, who you did mention before. and he commented on YouTube, and you did say that you'd be looking at talking to him about
and we
Firestorm
have not had a chance. And I would, and if you know Toby,
I do,
then, okay, then please put him in touch with me, and we will make a concerted effort. But we have had a locked-in plan for basically every episode, and I do still want to get Toby on. Once again, faction expertise is something that Bailey and I, we don't necessarily have, not to that level. And
he's a very good Firestorm player, and he's the only Dark Angels player knows apart from Ironstorm players who are disappointed in the changes because of how actions work. Because he built his list to advance an action. That was how his list was designed. It wasn't necessarily about killing stuff; it was about scoring stuff. And obviously, he's now looking at his list and going, "Well, I can't now advance an action." But that's a debate he can have with you, because I've played Firestorm once and I went for, flamers and stuff, because
pure murder. So
yeah.
Okay. Well, I said, hey, put him in touch with me, and we'll next time we have the opportunity to do this, hopefully, maybe in a week or two. Maybe we can try and get one on July 4th weekend. I know that's not a big deal for you Brits, but it should be.
It's a massive deal this year.
Really? Okay. Oh yeah, because your election. Yeah, because you'll have an election that weekend. So
yeah, that's an absolutely massive deal.
Our holiday about getting our own elections, and you're having an election too. Fancy that. Maximum British comedy.
Well,
truth is truly stranger than fiction.
So it
really is.
Well, it is. Before we were talking about pantomime before the show started. Now, if you want to look up Count Binface, who is,
I've seen it.
Oh, who has declared the 4th of July Bindependence Day. So,
God, I love the Brits. You guys are awesome. It's like y'all take yourselves just seriously enough, and we could probably do with some of that over here. Anyway,
excellent.
All right,
Alan.
man.
Well, thank you, Alan, for coming on again and
staying up late,
being part of the show.
It's 11 p.m.
late.
over there.
We appreciate it. Yep.
This is a truly, in fact, international, because it's 11 p.m. in the UK. What are you at? 6 p.m. in Indianapolis?
Yep. Yep.
And it's just past noon here in Hawaii. So we are all around the world.
We're global. It's amazing. It's the best part about the Dark Angels community.
Or across the world if you're a flat earther, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Can't forget about them. So, for all of you round earthers and flat earthers out there, thank you for listening to this month's episode of The Path to Redemption, the Warhammer 40,000 Dark Angels podcast. Our next episode will come out sometime in July. Hopefully not September, but
yeah.
Just thinking about how I'm thinking.
We'll do our best. Yeah, we have a lot to talk about because we still got to get Toby on. We got to get probably Adam on again, and I have 2 or 3 other people that I met that they're faction experts that I want to try and for various different aspects that I want to bring in. So yeah.
Well, and it's just also because just this last month's episode, there were so many revisions that I made to it, and multiple because there were it took me forever. So I'm looking at the clock, going, this might come out in July. But
we had a lot of issues one, Bailey's internet got corrupted, and so we had to recover a lot of it from internet backups. Yeah. And then there were a lot of issues with the pictures. Like I think I had more pictures, but by the time we were able to get them in, and it just we needed to get it published. So that's why it
was nuts, but it got done. So we'll get this one out there and done, and we'll get all the new ones in and going forward as well. So please subscribe, like, and comment below if you're watching us on YouTube or listening to us in your preferred podcast. So you can catch all these episodes when they come out. And last but not least, we'd like to thank Purple Planet for the use of their music. And until next time, I'm Bailey from Dankless Wargaming.
This is Heath with Table Hawaii. Alan?
I'm Alan from, I guess, the Facebook page. Dark Angels Competitive.
All right.
Stay loyal, Angels.